Picture this, a Friday night. The kind of night where the sky opens up and refuses to close. Rain hammers the pavement in sheets. You are standing on a curb in the heart of a major metropolitan area. Maybe Chicago, maybe New York, maybe Los Angeles. It does not matter where. These cities all look the same on nights like this. Massive crowds are spilling out of concert venues. Bars are closing their doors. Thousands of people are huddled under awnings, clutching their phones, watching the battery icon drain, watching their screen dim, desperate for one thing: a way home. You are a gig driver. You are working that night. You pull out your smartphone. You open the app, and your heart stops. Your screen is glowing. The map on your dashboard is painted in deep, angry reds and burning oranges. Massive dollar signs are floating across the display, calling to you like some kind of digital siren song. Plus $5, plus $10, plus $20. The numbers are enormous. They are screaming at you. They are telling you that demand is absolutely through the roof. They are telling you that if you just drive to the center of that glowing red zone, if you just navigate through the chaos, you will finally make the money you have been chasing all week. You have been driving for hours. You have been accepting scraps. You have been grinding through the rain, burning fuel, wearing down your engine, and your bank account is still bleeding. But now this, the surge, the opportunity you have been waiting for. What do? You hit the gas. My name is Spencer Pettiford. I am a lead investigator. And tonight, we are going to tear apart the glowing red map on your dashboard. We are going to expose the algorithmic bait and switch that has been manipulating you. We are going to show you exactly how Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and every single gig company in this parasitic ecosystem has been using the surge as a psychological weapon against their own workers. We are going to explain the dynamic price fixing that is actively robbing the person sitting in your back seat. We are going to pull back the curtain on the multi-billion-dollar heist that has been happening in plain sight, right under your nose, every single night, in every single city across this country. This is The Algorithm from Hell, Episode 9. The Surge Illusion. The code that stole the American dream, and nothing is going to be left out. No punches pulled, no holes covered. We are coming for them with everything we have. Let us start with the driver's perspective. Let us talk about the psychological manipulation of the surge map. You are 5 miles away from the glowing red zone. Your app tells you there is a $15 bonus waiting for you inside that red circle. All you have to do is get there. The algorithm is practically begging you to drive toward it. So you do exactly that. You ignore every single small request along the way. You turn down the $3 rides, the $4 rides, the rides that would actually pay you something guaranteed. You have your eyes on the prize. You have your mind set on that $15 bonus. You navigate through the downpour. You fight through the nightmare traffic. You are burning your own fuel. You are wearing down your own vehicle. You are paying for your own maintenance, your own insurance, your own health, because this is America, and you are an independent contractor, which means you pay for everything and you get nothing in return. But you are going to catch the surge this time. You are going to reach the promised land. Finally, after miles of grinding, after ignoring every other opportunity, you cross the invisible geofence. You are inside the red zone. You have arrived. You pull up your screen, you look down at your dashboard, and you wait for that massive payout to finally materialize. And right before your eyes, the map turns white. The red vanishes. The orange fades. The color drains from the screen the millisecond you enter the zone. The $15 bonus that was just floating in front of your face has completely evaporated. Gone. You look at the screen, and instead of a bonus, you see a notification for a standard $4 ride request. $4. After everything you just did. After every mile you drove. After every sacrifice you made to get there. You feel gutted. You feel cheated. You feel like you were just a minute too late, just a few seconds too slow. You tell yourself that if you had driven a little faster, if you had left a little sooner, you would have caught it. You would have gotten what was promised. You are wrong. You did not miss the surge. You were not too late. The surge was never real. Not for you. Not for any driver. The cartel does not use the surge map to reward you for your service. They use it as a behavioral manipulation tool. They use it to forcefully reposition their unpaid, exploited workforce across a geographic grid, exactly when and where they need bodies to cover demand. Here is what is actually happening. The algorithm recognizes a potential lack of supply in a specific neighborhood. A concert just ended. A rush just started. Demand is spiking. The system needs drivers in that zone, and it needs them now. But instead of simply paying drivers a fair, guaranteed wage to go there, instead of offering a bonus that actually exists, the algorithm casts an illusion. It dangles a holographic carrot. It uses the promise of a surge to manipulate hundreds of drivers into rushing toward a single location all at once, completely flooding the zone with supply that they did not have to pay a single extra cent to summon. The absolute second the algorithm calculates that enough drivers have arrived to cover the incoming passenger demand, it pulls the plug. It evaporates the bonus. It makes the red map disappear as quickly as it appeared. You burned your gas. You wasted your time. You drove 5, 10, 15 miles out of your way. You acted as a pawn on a digital chessboard, being moved around by an algorithm that views you as nothing more than a resource to be deployed and discarded. And the cartel did not have to pay you one single extra dime for the repositioning. They got exactly what they wanted, and you got absolutely nothing. This is algorithmic bait and switch. This is fraud dressed up in the language of the free market. This is psychological manipulation weaponized against the working class to maximize corporate profit margins. And it happens every single night. But here is the thing. The phantom surge is only half of the illusion. The true crime, the multi-billion-dollar theft that makes the surge look like petty cash, happens when the surge is actually applied. It happens in the decoupling. It happens in the gap between what the rider pays and what the driver earns. To understand this, we have to flip the camera. We have to look at the person requesting the ride or ordering the food. We have to look at the consumer. Because the gig economy is not just stealing from workers, it is stealing from everyone it touches. For the first few years of the gig economy, the system actually operated on a relatively transparent percentage split. It was not perfect, it was not ideal, but at least it was honest. The cartel took 20% of the fare. The driver kept 80%. If the passenger paid $20 for a ride, the driver got $16. $8 of that went to gas and maintenance. They netted $8 for their labor. It was not a fortune, but it was understandable. It was a straightforward contract. You could look at the numbers and know exactly where the money was going. But then the cartel had a realization. A billion-dollar realization. They realized that they were leaving absolutely astronomical amounts of money on the table. They realized that if they completely severed the connection between what the rider pays and what the driver earns, if they removed all transparency from the transaction, they could artificially inflate their profit margins to levels that would make any Wall Street banker weep with envy. The tech industry has a fancy name for this. They call it algorithmic decoupling. They talk about it in investor presentations and shareholder meetings as if it is some kind of revolutionary innovation. We do not have a fancy name for it. We call it theft. We call it organized, systematic, algorithmic theft. Let us go back to that rainy Friday night. Let us go back to that concert that just let out. Thousands of desperate people, soaked to the bone, phones dying in their hands, looking for a way home. The passenger opens their app. They type in their destination. They hit search, and the algorithm goes to work. But it is not just looking at the distance they need to travel. It is not just calculating mileage and time. The artificial intelligence inside that app is profiling that passenger. It is building a psychological dossier on them in real time. It looks at their ride history. It knows what kind of trips they take. It knows they live in a wealthy neighborhood. It knows their regular routes. It looks at the battery life on their phone. It knows that a person with 2% battery in the pouring rain, with their screen about to go black, is absolutely desperate. It knows they will pay a premium. They have no choice. It looks at the time of day. It looks at the weather. It looks at their past payment history. It builds a complete picture of exactly how desperate this specific human being is at this exact moment. And then the cartel's dynamic pricing algorithm calculates the absolute maximum amount of money it can possibly squeeze out of that specific passenger at that specific millisecond. The quote comes back. $85. $85 for a 5-mile ride in a rainstorm. $85 because the algorithm knows the passenger has no choice. $85 because the algorithm knows their phone is dying and they need to get home and they will pay anything. The passenger looks at the $85 price tag on their screen. They are shocked. They are horrified. But they are soaking wet. Their phone is about to die. They cannot wait for the storm to pass. They cannot find another option. They have no leverage, so they hit accept. They pay $85 for a 5-mile trip. And what happens to that money? Now, if you ask that passenger, if you walk up to them on the street and ask them where they think their $85 went, they will tell you they believe the driver is making a fortune. They assume that because they are paying $85, the person risking their life driving through the storm, navigating the traffic, dealing with the chaos, is getting the vast majority of that fare. They assume the driver is getting 60, 70, maybe even 80% of what they paid. Why would they think otherwise? That is what makes sense. That is what is fair. That is what the entire system is supposed to be built on. The passenger pays for a service, and the person providing the service gets compensated for their labor. But that is not what happens. That is not even close to what happens. What does the driver actually see on their screen at the exact same moment? They receive a notification. The algorithm has calculated the absolute minimum amount the driver will accept based on their own desperation metrics. How far below the poverty line are they? How bad do they need this ride? How much can we pay them before they give up and go offline? The driver's screen flashes. $14. $14 for the same 5-mile trip. $14 for the same service, $14 for the labor, the fuel, the wear and tear, the insurance, the risk. The passenger paid $85. The driver receives $14, and the cartel, the middleman, the algorithm, pockets the difference. $71. $71 in pure profit for the cartel on a single 5-mile trip. They take 80% of the revenue while providing 0% of the labor, 0% of the gas, 0% of the vehicle equity, and 0% of the risk. The definition of a parasitic business model. They have completely decoupled the market. They are price gouging the consumer under the guise of high demand, while simultaneously wage-starving the worker. They are playing both sides against the middle. They are taking from everyone, exploiting everyone, and delivering nothing but broken promises. And here is where it gets really ugly. Really ugly. If two separate taxi companies colluded to artificially fix prices based on a customer's phone battery life, their geographic location, their personal desperation, the federal government would shut them down within a week. The FTC would be at their door. The Attorney General would be launching investigations. They would be charged with antitrust violations, deceptive trade practices, and probably a dozen other crimes. But because the cartel does it through a proprietary black box algorithm, because they have wrapped their fraud in the language of technology and innovation, they get to call it dynamic pricing. They get to call it a free market. They get to claim it is just supply and demand at work, and nobody is allowed to question it. That is absolute nonsense. That is corporate propaganda designed to keep you from asking questions. A free market requires transparency. A free market requires the buyer and the seller to understand the terms of the transaction. A free market cannot exist when one party controls all the information and deliberately keeps both sides in the dark. In the gig economy, both the buyer and the seller are completely blinded by the middleman. The cartel has built a digital monopoly on information. They have created a market where they can play both sides against the middle without anyone ever knowing what is really happening. The passenger does not know the driver is getting $14 out of their $85 fare. The driver does not know the passenger paid $85. Neither of them has access to the other side of the transaction. Only the cartel sees the full picture. Only the cartel knows how much everyone is being screwed. And the only way they get away with it is by keeping the two sides from talking to each other. They rely on the fact that the passenger in the back seat and the driver behind the wheel will never compare their screens. They rely on information asymmetry. They rely on your ignorance. But the WordUpMediaNetwork is comparing the screens. Our investigation has documented the exact mathematical proof of algorithmic decoupling. We have the screenshots from the passengers' phones, side by side with the pay stubs from the driver's earnings, proving 50, 60, and even 80% take rates. We have the receipts. We have the evidence. We have the data that proves this is not just a labor dispute. This is not just workers complaining about their pay. This is massive, coordinated, systematic consumer fraud being perpetrated on the American public every single day. Every time someone pays $80 for a ride and the driver gets $12, that is fraud. Every time someone orders food and pays a $20 delivery fee while the driver receives $3, that is fraud. Every time a surge map appears and disappears, leaving drivers stranded and confused, that is fraud. And it is happening millions of times a day in every city in this country, and nobody is talking about it. Nobody is investigating it. Nobody is holding them accountable until now. And the cartel's legal shield, the mandatory arbitration clause buried in the fine print that every driver and every rider agrees to without reading, is about to shatter. Because here is what they do not understand. Arbitration was designed to protect them from individual lawsuits. It was designed to prevent one person from taking them to court and winning a settlement that would expose their practices. Mandatory arbitration forces individual cases into a secret system where they control the arbitrators, they control the process, and they make sure nobody ever wins. But we are not fighting them with individual lawsuits. We are not playing their game. We are bringing an army. We are talking about 50,000 drivers filing mass arbitration demands simultaneously. We are talking about 50,000 mathematical cases that will flood their system and force them to open their black box. We are talking about 50,000 individual arbitration hearings that will require them to explain to a legal arbitrator, under oath, exactly why they charged a customer $80 while paying the driver $12, exactly how their deceptive surge maps manipulate independent contractors, exactly how their algorithms profile desperation and extract maximum profit from both sides of every transaction. They do not want to answer those questions. They will pay hundreds of millions of dollars to avoid answering those questions. They will settle. They will negotiate. They will try to make this go away. And that is exactly how we force a global reckoning. That is exactly how we force a settlement that actually compensates the workers. That is exactly how we break the machine. If you have chased a phantom surge map across a city only to watch it disappear the second you arrived, you have been defrauded. If you have looked at a customer's receipt and realized the app took 60% of the fare, you have been defrauded. If you have watched the red map glow on your screen and felt that surge of hope only to see it vanish into nothing, you have been defrauded. It is time to fight back. It is time to stop being a passive victim. It is time to become an active combatant in a legal war that is coming whether you are ready or not. Go to your email right now. Address a new message to gigsuit@gmail.com. That is gigsuit@gmail.com. We need your help, and we need your evidence. We must mathematically lock in your baseline pay to protect you from algorithmic retaliation when the lawsuit drops. We need you to attach your last 3 months of income statements from the apps. We need you to attach any screenshots you have of phantom surge maps or decoupled passenger receipts. Put your full legal name and your phone number in the body of the email. We are finalizing agreements with Tier 1 national mass tort law firms. When the files are ready to be executed, when the case is ready to be filed, you will be in the first wave. Do not let them gouge the public while they starve you. Do not let them play both sides while you pay the price. Send your evidence to gigsuit@gmail.com right now. Join the 50,000. Break the machine. I am Spencer Pettiford, I am a lead investigator, and this is the algorithm from hell. The storm is here. Hold the line.